Hey folks, I am Rebecca, blonde in the belly of the beast. This is Robyn, formerly Critical Condition. This is our channel Motherland, where we have streamed miraculously twice within a 2-week period. It's a freaking miracle. I can't believe it. And today we have with us Julia Brave the World. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again. I think you're our first repeat guest, right?
And maybe.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
I think
so. Because we've been doing this channel for a year now, purportedly. But you are pregnant with your third baby, and you're going to tell us a little bit about your previous 2 births, what's been going on in this pregnancy, how it's different, and if you just want to give everybody a rundown in case they didn't see the last episode with you.
Yeah, I'll give everyone a brief history. The reason why I wanted to come on again is because I have a couple of really big mindset changes that I wanted to talk about, which, I'm not the only woman on earth, so I'm sure people have gone through similar feelings. And if I can help people change their mindset and have a better birth in the future, I think that's worthwhile. So basically my history is, first of all, I have a weird anatomy. I have 2 uterus, 2 cervix. So my first pregnancy was in Canada, and that put me at high risk, which means their national healthcare midwives will not touch me. So
why would you be at high risk?
Because I have 2 uteruses instead of 1.
But what about that would make it more of a risky pregnancy?
Some women with this condition have premature labor because because I have 2 cervix too. You start the other cervix can start contracting and put you into. But I haven't seen any solid numbers on that, and it's such a rare condition that it's just like they're being extra careful.
Right.
And my doctor in Canada said I should be fine. But that's just the policy. If you're like at all abnormal, the midwives don't work with you, period.
Okay.
So I couldn't get assigned midwives. And I wasn't quite in a place where I was like willing to get like an underground doula or something.
So, are you now?
Yeah. We'll see how this home birth goes, but I'm definitely open to that a lot more. So I had to go with a OB. He was awful. He wanted me to schedule my C-section, be induced, and I said no. They called me. And harassed me to come in because I haven't been in, and I'm scheduled for my C-section in a week. So I was like, okay, I'll come in, and I wanted to come in just tell them off because I'm like that. But my labor started that night, so I didn't have to see them ever again. So I went to the hospital. He was breech. The hospital seemed to breech birth, period. I had to be C-section. So, I mean, the C-section itself, you're out of body. You're not participating in your birth. You're like, you're not there basically mentally. You're just there physically, and they just like take your baby out. And then you go into shock and fall asleep, and you're drugged up. And then you get to hold your baby like 2 hours later. I fought them on all the like extra stuff they do there. So that was, they respected that with some resentment, but they did respect it. And, staying at the hospital there sucked. I was like bullied about a bunch of things, but whatever. And then the recovery with C-section is awful. So if you can avoid C-section, at the very least, avoid that. So then 4 years later, I'm pregnant with my second child, and I just want to avoid a C-section. And I hired a doula.
So was this second, I'm sorry to interrupt, was the second pregnancy in the same uterus? Okay.
So this is now my VBAC. I had good OBs. They said I had a 95% chance of natural birth, no problem. Everything was going fine. I hired a doula because I wanted someone, like my mindset was no C-section, no drugs, unmedicated birth at the hospital. I had a plan and all that. And I hired a doula, and I wanted her, I basically left it up to her when the time came to like coach me through the labor and make the labor like tolerable and all that stuff. She didn't really provide me too many resources leading up to that,
okay,
which is unfortunate. And I also should have done more preparation on my own terms. So I'll get into the things that went wrong after I tell you the history. So basically, I go into labor at home at like 1 a.m. My labor immediately is like 3 minutes apart, my contractions, super intense. I get in the bath, hated it. I'm walking around, hate it. Like everything is awful. I call her. She's like, just go back to sleep. I'm like, no, my contractions are 3 minutes apart. And then I call her the second time and she fesses up that she's at another birth. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just tell me that?
Oh my God.
She upfront about that, which I only realized was weird like a few weeks ago when I was really thinking about it. So then she sent a different doula to the wrong hospital. So I didn't get my doula. I get to the hospital. The hospital is 30 minutes away, less because it was the middle of the night. So 20 minutes away. I get there in 20 minutes. I'm dilated like 4 centimeters now.
Wow.
Like I went from like 0 to 4 centimeters. I guess maybe while I was sleeping, like the 2 hours of sleep I got, I dilated. It was crazy. So I'm in the hospital, like in horrific pain. The doula shows up like an hour and a half late. And I didn't know her. I've never met this person before because it was the backup doula. And she was sweet and supportive. Like the term they say is she held space. So she wasn't like intrusive. And she held a hot pack to my back. And that's all she did. She didn't try to talk me through my pain. She didn't give me any tip, like nothing. It was literally just me trying not to die. And I progressed to 6 centimeters really fast. And all the doctors were just like in shock because they don't really see much unmedicated birth there. And I had a little, I said this story prior, but it's funny enough to repeat. This little nurse runs up to me, and I don't think she's ever heard a woman go through natural labor. And she runs up to me with underwear, and she goes, "Can you put your underwear on? Because you're like bleeding everywhere." And I look at her like I gave her a look, and I never see her again because I was going to kill her. If I wasn't going to murder her, I was going to murder this person. So it was just all these like fearful, unsure people around me. My doula not really helping me with dealing through that, or through my really intense contractions. And my husband was just busy fighting all the staff off of me because they were trying to give me an epidural, which I would have accepted if he wasn't there to honor my birth plan. So yeah, and then I give birth at like just before 8 a.m. Like I had a really fast labor. And so another thing they did was they wouldn't let me push. They couldn't tell how dilated I was, but they wouldn't let me push because I wasn't dilated enough. And my body was pushing already. I couldn't not push. And they kept saying, "Don't push, don't make those sounds, don't do this." And I'm like, how? I'm not doing it. It's not me doing it. It's my body doing it. So 2 hours of this, finally, the doctor on staff was like, "Okay, let's try and push, I guess." And I pushed the baby out in like 2 pushes.
Wow.
Like, which you're not supposed to do. That's why I ripped it. I ripped really horribly. I had a 2nd-degree rip. She came out sideways. Oh. That's why I had back labor. Like she came, like, because I remember looking down, seeing her ears. It's just like the worst.
Oh no.
And then they gave me Pitocin because I was hemorrhaging. So I didn't get my love cocktail. I just got adrenaline. I was just like high on adrenaline. I couldn't sleep for 72 hours, and I didn't sleep the night prior. And I was just like, my mindset was like, why did I do this? What was the point of that? That was horrific. And then everyone around me basically like was like, "Yeah, don't do that. Like, just get an epidural next time." And my mindset in the hospital was pretty much, I'm just going to get an epidural next time. That was cool. I did it. I feel the pain of my ancestors, but I didn't feel that like loving awe thing that I really wanted to feel. So then 2 years go by and I still have that mindset, and then I get pregnant. And about 2-3 months into the pregnancy, I'm just like, nope, not going to the hospital. Don't want an epidural. Don't want to deal with the doctors. Don't want anything. And I just realized that I have to try this again. And I started talking to resources. Actually, I was going to go to the hospital, but I was going to try to do natural birth again with a different midwife or doula. So I interviewed a bunch of midwives, and nobody was taking me because they don't do hospital births. And then I found this one midwife. This woman is nuts, okay? She's like 70. She knows Ina May. for those of you who don't know who Ina May is, she is the woman that resurrected midwifery in America.
Mhm.
She is the trailblazer of midwifery. And she like knows her. She hangs out with her. She's gonna go visit her in the springtime or something. So this woman was like super old school. She studied with Ina May. And our first conversation, she's like, "Why do you want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, "Well, I'm really worried about hemorrhaging. I hemorrhaged a lot. I had a blood transfusion." And she's like, "I have Pitocin." "Why do you want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, "Oh, you're right. I don't really need to be there if you have Pitocin." Like, that's how they would do for me. She's like, "Okay, let's try it home." I'm like, "Okay." And then, thinking about it too with COVID, like Austin's not horrible for it, but my husband will have to be in a mask. That's not going to be okay for him. And I won't be able to bring my kids, and I want my kids there. My son was there last time and it was awesome. Like, I want him to be involved. So I decided to not have it at the hospital. I have an awesome midwife, and I talked to a couple other resources who really clarified maybe why my labor was so horrific. So my midwife currently promises me 20% less discomfort, less pain. Basically, she's like, "You were around a bunch of people who were more scared than you. They were supposed to be helping you, but they were just fearful and scared." I had my doula, and I'm remembering these things she was saying. Like, I'm interviewing my doula, and she's like, "Oh, most women have a birth plan, but they don't actually want it, and they just give in and take that epidural." And she was like, and like looking back on that, like, why would you say that to me? That's so defeatist. It's like, you didn't believe in me.
Yeah.
And then she sent someone I don't even know. And then I was alone. Like, I was basically laboring in a cold, fearful hospital environment alone. So I'm very hopeful now that if I do more prep, and if I have the right people around me, and if I don't have any of that fear and anxiety around me, and I get my mindset totally clear of fear, which I've come a long way. Like, I don't want to use the term PTSD because it's not PTSD. Like, PTSD is like really horrible. I don't want to appropriate that term, but it was like anytime anyone would talk about natural birth, I was like, "Oh my God." Like, I would get these horrible pain flashbacks. So yeah, lots of sabotage I'm going to avoid, and I probably missed a bunch of stuff, but if you have any questions or input, that's kind of where. Oh wait, I'm pregnant in my other uterus now, so it is a not VBAC after a VBAC, so I'm technically low risk.
Wow, that is crazy. I wonder how many people on Earth have actually had this situation arise.
No, not many.
Probably like 100. I don't know. It's hard to say because we didn't have medical records. But since medical records existed, probably less than 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Your midwife sounds like she's very like to the point, doesn't sugarcoat things. Like, if you're wavering, it sounds like she's the kind of person who's going to just she's just going to tell you the truth.
She's a badass. She's like, "I will, if you want to go to the hospital, I will try to keep you home for like a little while. But if you really insist, I will honor your wishes." But like, I can tell she's going to be like, really, "Hey, you don't need to go. Let's stay here and just breathe through it," or whatever. Yeah. So
that's wonderful. That's a lot. That's very similar to what my midwife was like. And I thought that I wanted like one of these soft and gentle and like comforting midwives, but it actually, her confidence, her unwaveringness, and her quickness to answer my questions without any, humming or hawing, that actually gave me more peace and made me feel more confident than I think someone who was just kind of like, placating to my emotions.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Mine said that she'll even do breech if he's breech.
It's amazing.
Oh wow.
Boy, she said, "I'll do breech. I've done breech." So like, anything goes, I guess. Unless we have a horrific complication, there won't be really a reason to go anywhere.
You said you didn't like the water last time. Will you at least try to give yourself the option of having a pool? Yeah,
I am. I'm gonna. You know what? It's a new pregnancy. It's a new uterus.
Yeah.
It's a new year.
Yeah.
It's a new mindset, and every labor and pregnancy is different. It really is. And I'm gonna honestly, I'm trying to leave it up to God and like leave all my baggage behind and just yeah, just see what happens.
Do you have any twins on your side of the family?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. Could you have a twin pregnancy in each uterus?
Yes. So it's like,
oh my
yeah,
god.
but they're not real twins though, because they're not in the same uterus, right? So it would be 2 ovulation cycles, which the thing is I stop ovulating when I'm pregnant. So if I had hyper ovulation, like some women have like hyper overreactive.
They would have different gestational ages then.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
Wow.
there was a woman in the past 15 years who got pregnant with her husband's baby. I think her husband was Asian. And then she cheated on him with a black guy and got pregnant with his baby in her other uterus. She had overactive ovaries, so she kept ovulating even though she was pregnant. And then she gave natural birth like a different 3 months apart.
Whoa, holy moly.
What a nightmare for everybody involved. But if you shot out 2 eggs, couldn't they both? Okay, you shoot out 2 eggs in the same ovulation cycle. You have different sperm go into each cervix, and then couldn't you be pregnant with the equivalent of fraternal twins in each uterus?
I don't know. I don't know, because if it shoots out in the right ovary,
then it would go to the right uterus.
Yeah. I don't know. The body's a mystical thing.
So you could have twins in one uterus, though.
Yes, I think so. I don't think
this is the craziest thing.
Fraternal twins would separate and go into 2 different
uteruses.
But again, how would we even know? Because fraternal twins don't look. It's like, oh, did I just get 2? How would you know?
This is wild.
What other sorts of pain management are you thinking about trying while you're laboring at home?
Hiring a massage therapist.
Yeah.
Push on my back.
Nice.
I just met, I have a new massage therapist at my chiro, who my chiropractor was recommended by my midwife who delivered his kids. So it's Austin's world. She's like very involved in the Austin midwifery scene. She started the first birth center here. But yeah, so getting the massage therapist, I think, would be great, because we're doing the Bradley method with my husband right now, and he's like, I'm not pushing on your back for 6 hours straight. I can do an hour. I'm like, oh well, what am I gonna do? So yeah, I'll have a massage therapist on call. I'll have my son. My son does this thing where he drives his toy cars on my back. So I'll have him do something like that. I'll try the water again.
Yeah.
Maybe that will help be better this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think just like the letting go is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys did the Bradley method at all, but like, it's very interesting. It's just, it coaches you to fully relax, even though your cervix is tightening and releasing. Mm-hmm. So I'm like practicing fully relaxing, which feels very odd. I think most people don't do that, and I certainly don't do that, but it's a skill, like just to like let go of your face muscles completely. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I did the Bradley method with a large chunk of my active labor. And I think from the outside, it probably would have just looked like I was sleeping. Like I didn't even make noise really during that point of the labor. Yeah. I could have if I wanted to, and I did for different parts of my labor. But for that, I think the last part of my dilation, I was like sleeping in between contractions, and I felt so relaxed. I was focusing so much on the space in between the contractions that I was like looking forward to when a contraction was over so that I could just melt into the space in between them. Mm-hmm. And my focus shifted from, oh no, I'm going to have a contraction, to, okay, awesome, I'm going to like go into this like melted, dreamy, like incredible, relaxed phase afterwards. Pain. Yeah.
Like, it's not like this. I don't know. There's a group of people, I get the psychological thing. Don't call it pain. I get that. I'm going to stop calling it pain closer to my labor.
And it friggin' hurts.
Yeah, but like the truth is, it is really painful. Like I don't like this whole thing of, oh, your body's built for it, and this is natural, supposed to happen. Like yes to all of that, but it still really hurts.
Yeah,
it still really hurts a lot. It's the worst pain I've ever felt. I actually have a high pain tolerance. I was so shocked that it was so horrible for me. But also I mentioned they weren't letting me push, right? So like, imagine your body is ready to push your baby out, and your body is bearing down on the baby, but psychologically you're not letting that happen fully because your doctor's like, don't push, you're gonna injure yourself. But we don't know how dilated you are because you have extra cervix. Like, well, how can you tell me not to push then?
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like I could have birthed her like an hour or two earlier.
And taken more time with the pushing pace.
Yeah, taking more time with the pushing. Because it was uncanny. Like I was in the type of tunnel black hole pain where I was asking to die. Like I wanted to die. And then as soon as she gave me permission to push, I was like, my pain went away.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, how is that possible? But it was such a mind trip. And I almost like resented. I'm like, why am I listening to this fucking woman? like it just honestly, and like another reason why my mindset changed so much, it was we just went through 2 years of being lied to, like with all this COVID stuff, we're just lied to every day by the medical community about everything. And I'm like, I'm so against it, but what, I'm going to give my autonomy over to some white coat during my birth? No. If I can stay at home, I'm going to stay at home because these people are fucking evil. Like I don't want to do anything with them. And my OBs like weren't even that bad, but that whole environment, even if you're not that bad, like you're trained in a certain way that you like become retarded and you don't trust and that's what we are, clients. We're clients. We are paying these people's salaries. That's how they treat us. It's totally absurd.
Is there anything that would send you to the hospital? Do you have that in your birth plan?
If my midwife says we need to go to the hospital, I'm going to trust that we need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because I know her mindset is like, she's not like hospital trigger happy. Like she's the one who convinced me to stay at home.
Right.
So, yeah. Anything really extreme, like my placenta is, what's the term?
Abrupted?
Yeah. Anything to do with like placental issues that can be really serious. If my hemorrhaging doesn't stop with her Pitocin and I need a blood transfusion, I'm going to go to the hospital, get my blood transfusion.
Right.
But that's after the birth, like that already is better in my opinion, because I didn't have that much issues postpartum at the hospital. Like my postpartum nurses were awesome.
Yeah.
I was treated so well. But during the birth, there's very few things during the birth that really are an emergency. Like I guess if my blood pressure spikes, I get like sudden onset preeclampsia or something. I don't know if that even happens.
God. Yeah. I can't believe we're all gonna have to do this again.
It actually just hit me like a week ago.
Yeah,
it was like nighttime, the baby was asleep, and I was just walking around and I was like, wait a minute. I actually have to go through that again. Like I just had such focus on the baby and like so excited to have the baby that it genuinely didn't really hit me that I had to
the way I've been thinking about it, my baby's coming.
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet my baby. And you have to kind of like try and like bypass work part where you have to work to get the baby out.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah. And having no other option helps too. It's like, this has to get done. So I guess we're going to have to do it.
There's no avoiding it.
Yes. And, I had that mindset and my husband had that mindset even more, but it's not enough to help with the pain.
Yeah.
It's not enough. And I thought it would be enough. Like I thought being a hard ass would be enough, but no, I need to go through like way more techniques and coping strategies, and I need better people around me.
Yeah.
What's been different about your prenatal care with regards to like going to OBs and then now going to this cool midwife? And are there any things about the midwifery care that you're receiving that's being impacted by the COVID stuff?
No.
Awesome.
And wonderful. Honestly, the only thing with my OBs was like wear a mask in the waiting area and I couldn't bring kids again. But honestly, you're in there. I would take my mask off. No one cared.
Yeah.
A lot of them would take their masks off too. and nobody, this has happened to some of my friends in Austin, but for me, I've seen like 3 different doctors regarding my pregnant. I had like a little scare earlier on, and one of my OBs, went into labor, so I had to switch OBs. So I've seen like 3 different medical practitioner doctors, and then like 2 nurses, and nobody has recommended I get vaccinated, and nobody has pushed me to get vaccinated, and nobody has been nosy. Like they go through their protocol questions, and then I'm just like, that's private information. They're like, okay. So it's been very, very nice that way here. So, yeah. And then my midwife, her care is just really involved. Like you're there for 2 hours, and she's doing like a whole history on you, and it's a lot of it is nutrition based. And she like diagnosed me as severely dehydrated. And she's like, no, you don't drink enough water. Like I tested you, you don't drink enough water. I'm like, I drink water all day. She's like, no. When I was your age, I also thought that, and I had constant headaches, and my pregnancies were difficult. You need to take and just like chug 2 liters of water a day. Just try it. And I started to do that, and it really helped. Yeah.
Wow.
Just feel better. And she's like, that will help you with your labor because you're not dehydrated. Number 1. Yeah. And then she just got me on some supplements and stuff, just like vitamin E and things like that too. And she says that will help with she looks at it from a longitudinal, like all body aware perspective. But because she's delivered 3,000 babies in hospital and out of hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. She also is like very she has a lot of medical knowledge. So she's like hippy dippy on one side, but not in an extreme way where she's like, you can't take Pitocin if you're hemorrhaging. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm so happy for you. She sounds like the perfect midwife for you.
Yep.
She's awesome. I hope, yeah.
Does she do any like holistic stuff? Like, does she do pressure point stuff or acupuncture or anything like that on you?
No. I think I don't know. I think she mentioned acupuncture. I'm not really into that stuff. So I'm like I know some people are, it helps them. For me, I'm not quite into all that. She did send me to her chiropractor though. So he's going to be kind of working with us to try and make sure the baby flips a little earlier because I have less room in there. Yep. So she is holistic in like that way. Awesome. But I know some midwives are like very intense with that. I'm part of like the Bitcoin carnivory group of people, right? And like they fired midwives before because they were pushing veganism on them. And so my midwife actually went through being a vegan for years, and she said it was detrimental to her health and to the health of her pregnancy at that time. And she actually severely cautions that kind of diet. So I'm like, she's just been through literally everything and has learned the hard way. And she gets very intense sometimes. And I know she has some trauma and fear in her life, legitimately, because she's been through a lot of like hardships. But that reassures me that she's telling me things because she genuinely believes them and has been through them. And it's not like a weird control bossy thing.
That's awesome.
Like when she's like, you have to drink more water, it's because like she doesn't want me to go through like a horrible labor because I'm dehydrated, because she went through that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Being dehydrated can change your blood parameters. And it can cause, I think, like an increase in hemoglobin. So your blood gets sticky, and it causes placental issues during birth. So it really is important that people drink enough water. It sounds like, drink a gallon of water a day, but seriously, if you can, you should.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask? I was just going to ask a question. Now I've forgotten it.
Pain coping, midwife.
No, it was something different. Oh, okay. This is unrelated. Maybe it'll come back to me in a little bit. But do you know what you're having?
Boy.
Oh, wow. Right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Boy, girl, boy. That's awesome.
That's the dream.
It's been, so my son, I told him it was a boy, and he flooped into the couch and cried for 20 minutes because he wanted another sister.
Oh,
He
bless
started
him.
yelling that he hates brothers, and then he wanted another sister.
What? He'll get over it real fast.
No, he did not. He acted like a maniac for a month.
Wow.
He went from a sweet boy you can negotiate with to a complete psycho. Like, I thought he was like having late onset autism, like level psychotic breakdowns, like every other day. I was like reading a book about it. It was just intense. And then a month later, we're doing bedtime, and I don't know, I was like joking around with him. I'm not going to use his real name. Let's call him Sam. I'll call him Sam. So I'm joking around with him, and he's talking about the baby in the belly. And I'm like, he's going to look just like you. And my son's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, your sister looks like you, and I think he's going to look exactly like you because he's a boy. And my son goes, you mean he'll be like little Sam? I'm like, yeah, he will be like little Sam. And then my son goes, can we name him Little Sam? I'm like, yes, we will name him after you. We will name him Little Sam. And he goes, twins. And then he stopped acting out. Like, literally the next day, he never acted that way ever again. And
well, you're gonna have to name him Little Sam. I don't know what you're doing.
Whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't act that way ever again. That was a horrible month.
Wow.
Like, the kid went nuts.
I remembered my question. Have you been able to talk to your midwife about the fact that you're Orthodox Christian, or any faith-related concerns or desires you may have for your labor, or maybe that's not even something that you care about?
She's like Christian background, but
awesome,
but more spiritual. But she has like the Virgin Mary. She's the original home birther, free birther, right?
Wow.
So she has she believes in God. I don't know if she specifically believes in the Christian God. I think she's still a little hippy dippy that way, but she definitely customs it to your beliefs. So she's like, do affirmations. You're Christian, do Christian affirmations with God. Like, so she doesn't impose or detract. Like, it's
awesome
up to you.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
It's reassuring. Man,
yeah.
Maybe next time, God willing, I should entertain having a home birth.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have a home or a hospital birth during COVID right now. Like, it feels like things are getting worse.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah,
it was awful.
You guys know Yolanda Clark? Clark. She's like a very controversial person. She's kind of behind the free birth movement. And she contributes to the Free Birth Society, and they're like super hippy dippy and also like hyper feminist, but actually in the way that feminists should be, like where they support mothers and going against the actual patriarchy of the hospital system and stuff, if you want to call it that. But they're at least consistent in their beliefs. They're like, women should be empowered, including like not having men deliver and kill their babies for them. So anyways, Yolanda's been like very outspoken against the COVID stuff, and she's on her 9th pregnancy.
Wow.
And she gave birth at home each time, and most of them were unassisted. So I had a little session with her, and she talked to me about how, like, her saying is, I don't give birth at home because I'm brave and strong. I give birth at home because I'm a wimp. And she said that if she was in my position and was in the hospital giving natural birth, she would have gotten an epidural immediately, because it's such a bad environment to give natural birth in. And I thought that was like a very interesting perspective from someone who's had almost 9 kids.
Yeah.
But she's like, yeah, you get to a place like transition when you're in a black hole and you do want to die. And I'm like, you're on your 9th baby and you still have that horrible like pain thing. And she's like, yep, you just have to submit yourself to it. But she's done it. She's going to be doing it a 9th time. So obviously it hasn't deterred her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh God. What do you say to women that are dealing with hospital-related birth trauma? Like I'm trying to get pregnant right now, but I low-key am relieved when I start my period because I'm just very afraid of going through all of this again. So how do you deal with the fear of thinking that if something went wrong in your first pregnancy, that it's definitely going to go wrong again in your second pregnancy?
Well, really, really make peace with the fact that every pregnancy is real different. No matter, some women like, oh yeah, sure, some women follow specific patterns, but most women have very different pregnancies, very different labors, and it's not true that something's going to go wrong the same way each time. And try to really go back and go through every step of your pregnancy leading up to your labor and delivery, and try to pinpoint points of sabotage, points of where you could have done something different, where someone else could have done something different, where maybe you did something or they did something to you that didn't need to be done. Get some second opinions about things. Like, I don't know how true this is, but Yolanda said she's been to 500 births and she's never actually seen a true hemorrhage. A lot of the things they call hemorrhage at the hospital aren't, it's kind of like hospital induced. Or like
right. Same thing with retained placenta, because I had a retained placenta that they removed manually, and I remember subsequently being really worried that it had caused uterine scarring.
How long was your placenta?
Right. It was. I had been given Pitocin. I had to be induced after I had a premature rupture of membrane, and then because of the Pitocin, that causes retained placenta, but it was only 30 minutes.
So see, this is like it makes it, the hospital stuff makes it hard to know or ever be able to possibly know what went wrong, and if something actually did go wrong,
right,
they caused it. Yeah. Because it's actually pretty natural for a woman to have a placenta in there for hours after.
Yeah.
I've heard of women who had their placenta in for like a whole day after, and then they finally get it out naturally.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that that's ideal or it's not a risk.
But it happens. And when I talked to my midwife after the delivery, because I had this laundry list of questions about things that went wrong during my birth, I was like, well, why did this retained placenta happen? She's like, well, we can't really know if you actually had a retained placenta because the hospital says after 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is that it has to be removed anyway. So it's possible that your body just would have flushed it out.
Did they cut your cord quick?
Yes, because the baby was in distress.
Right. So that also contributes to retained placenta, because if you think about it, if you leave the cord attached, your body's taking 1/3 of their blood in from the placenta still.
Yep.
If the cord runs out of blood and goes clear, your placenta deflates. It shrivels up, and your uterus shrivels up, and it just detaches. The placenta's like pulsating and full of blood still. It's like birthing a small baby again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. When I birthed my placenta, we I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's the something protocol. It was developed by a midwife, an Israeli midwife. You could probably Google it if you wanted to find out more about it, for anyone watching. But like, I waited 3 minutes after my baby was born, which seems like a really short time because you're still kind of in the haze of the fact that your baby is now out of your body. But within 3 minutes, I stood up, and because my uterus was still contracting, like I didn't actually feel like I had to push. Really, my uterus was still contracting from labor, so my uterus just pushed the placenta out really easily.
You had a very normal. That's kind of like the textbook normal way that it happens, even if it's in a longer schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is like, I mean, I think you know this, Rebecca, like you can't know. And every little thing they do, can create a cascade of problems.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. My mindset would be, again, new pregnancy. Try it at home with a very, very, find the best midwife you can find. because you obviously are someone who needs that peace of mind and backup and reassurance. Like, you probably don't want a doula that's just holding space. You want someone to, this is fine, this is normal, this is not normal, all that stuff, right?
I'm bummed though, because I loved my midwife, but they only do hospital deliveries.
Yeah, find someone who doesn't only do hospital deliveries.
Maybe you could get your old midwife to recommend a midwife who could offer more care that's more in alignment with what you want now.
I could. She knows people all over the place, so I can ask her. Where are you?
I'm in North Idaho.
Oh, okay. I'll ask her.
I got to get pregnant first, though.
Did you just move? Were you there all the time?
I moved here 3 years ago.
Cool. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's so great. It's got this. He's from Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Is he North Idaho?
Sun Valley area.
Oh, I think that's like the south.
It's not north. Yeah.
But Idaho's cool. It's like living on a different planet. This COVID thing has created this alternate universe. Every time I go somewhere, anywhere else, I'm like, oh, I forgot that this is happening in the world and other places. Because here, it's like it doesn't even exist.
In Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Like we actually had a 2-week lockdown.
Wow. Why did they even bother? How's Canada, Robyn? I'm sorry to talk about
I heard on the radio, just to give you a little bit of perspective of how bad it is where I am. I'm on Vancouver Island right now. We were just driving in the car yesterday, and like if the radio is on, it's like there are going to be race riots. There are like supercharged hate Nazis roaming about, and killer anti-vaxxers. And so they were talking about a protest. There apparently have been protests outside of hospitals where people are trying to spread information about the dangers of giving the vaccines to 5 to 11-year-olds. I think that's what the age bracket is they're doing now. And so like overnight, legislation was created so that if you are, the way that it's worded is really sketchy too. If you cause a healthcare worker to feel afraid to administer vaccines or do their job to the best of their ability because of your protest, 10 years in jail. That's it.
No fines. Cause them to be afraid, but they're such pussies. Like
that's literally what it said. Yeah. So, and these people, like, these aren't, people with weapons outside of hospitals that are like, you can't vaccinate people. They're literally handing out pamphlets. They're like, they're healthcare workers that have been fired, for not taking the vaccine themselves, who want to give more informed consent to people about
they will not stop until all the children are sacrificed.
Yeah.
And then the data will come out, and they'll either deny it, they'll go, oops.
Yeah.
They'll move on to the next thing.
That's horrifying.
That's how evil this is.
I know.
It really is. They won't stop till they get the kids.
It's bad out here. I'm happy I'm in the woods right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if in another year they start fining and jailing and taking kids away from parents who aren't vaccinating.
I know. It's a really scary time to have kids. Don't these conversations give you guys anxiety since you're pregnant?
Yes.
Why do you do this?
It makes me very thankful I'm in Texas. You need to be thankful you're in Idaho, and you need to get the fuck out.
I know. Yeah. We're always, I'm not going to talk about it online, but like we're always planning for the future and worst case scenarios always. Actually, you mentioned something about, I think when we were talking privately, something about prepping. Didn't you, Julia? During pregnancy, or you were just talking about prepping for your natural birth?
Always prepping. I'm just
always prepping.
She's like, I'm canning stuff right now during this interview.
Always more poultry.
Yeah. So, what are you doing to prepare in terms of having kids in this kind of post-societal collapse situation?
Honestly, I try to surround myself with people who are on track with us and how we live and how we feel. Like you need a small spiritual army around you.
Yeah.
And if all of them are able-bodied young men, even better. Yeah. I actually think in the sense of like, if things are going bad, I need at least 5 people to call on hand close by that can come over and help me. And I have those people.
Right.
So that's awesome. Try and have that kind of community around you. In terms of like mothers with kids, it's been hard. Like women, like I have my friends that are awesome, and some of them happen to have children and they're awesome. But making new mom friends with children is just becoming harder. Because people, some of these women are just evil. Like they have like Munchausen by proxy stuff going on. But some of them are like pretty nice, decent, moral people who are terrified.
Yeah.
They're terrified that their kid's going to get COVID and die. They're legitimately scared. And you can't really, that's their worldview. You can't reason with that. For me, like, especially when it comes to children, I'm a risk reward person, okay? So if you don't vaccinate your child for COVID, they are taking the risk of catching COVID, and then they're taking an even smaller risk of having complications, and then an even smaller risk of death.
Right.
If you're administering a experimental medical treatment, this is not a vaccine, it's a medical treatment, to your child preemptively, you're taking a guaranteed risk. So
right.
Going from the potential risk of COVID plus the potential risk of complications plus the potential risk of death to a guaranteed risk of vaccination.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, I don't care. You can argue about if myocarditis is 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000. That's still higher odds than death from COVID. I don't.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. Have you had COVID?
If I haven't had COVID yet, it doesn't exist. Just in the past month, I've been around 3 people who tested positive several days after I had dinner with them. I was in the car with them. I was at a, event with them.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant. Like I had it before I was pregnant, and during my pregnancy, I had like flu-like mild symptoms of something. I think I had RSV from my kids. I had this weird long cold that like just got me a month ago. I'm okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
Was it COVID? I don't know if it was
COVID. People get sick from a litany of illnesses at any given time. And I did get COVID. I've got really high antibody levels. My daughter got it. My whole family got it. And everybody, good health, poor health, everybody was fine. And I was like, is this it? Is this it? And we were low key sick for like a month, but things like that happen all the time. My daughter gets some weird, disgusting childhood illness like every 3 months.
You have better antibody protection against all the strains.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't get the vaccine even if I hadn't. I'm not getting this effing vaccine. It's never going to happen. My child's never getting it either. But the fact that they don't ever ask about natural immunity, doesn't that tell you everything that you need to know about the vaccine?
Yeah. Some countries are better with it. Like a lot of European countries, you can show them an old positive COVID test and you go on the train. Like they're actually being reasonable about it. If you can call that reasonable, still invading your private health matters.
Right.
But relative to places like Australia and Canada, it's pretty reasonable. But honestly, like I'm just prepared for it to keep getting worse and worse.
It is going to, yeah. What are they talking about now? The Omicron variant from Botswana or whatever the hell. It's like every time something like this comes out, I'm like,
0 deaths from the craziest variant of COVID yesterday. Wow. My friend put it perfectly. He said, in a real pandemic, the government has to pay people to go outside and work.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the opposite around.
Yeah. We've talked about this a few times, but in the Spanish flu, 1% of the world population died, which means that somebody that has died. Like your mom died and 2 of your friends died or something like that. I don't know anybody that's died, and I'd say the majority of people I know have gotten COVID. It's just not a big deal. Who cares?
But I know many people in my close circle of family and friends who have had reactions to the vaccine, though.
Really?
Everybody that is my friend that I know has had reactions to the vaccine. Yep. Long chronic reactions.
Yeah.
I know 3 people. I know of 3 people through church that dropped dead after the vaccine.
Yep. Seriously?
Young healthy men, heart stopped. And I know 2 85-year-old to 95-year-olds that died from COVID. One of them had a pig heart.
Wow.
Why am I laughing? That's really dark.
I mean, it's sad, but I don't think he died primarily of COVID.
No, people used to die all the time when they were old, and there would be no investigation into their deaths because they're super old. Who cares?
Dude, I'm like, none of my grandparents have lived. Like, I have one grandma that's still alive. None of my male grandparents have lived past like 65. I'm like, dude, your grandpa died of COVID at 95. Awesome. Like, he lived forever.
Good run right there. Like, 40% of people get cancer in their lifetime too. 40% of people. And everyone's like, oh, this respiratory virus is going to wipe out a bunch of 80-year-olds. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
God. Or morbidly obese people. Nobody wants to talk about that. Yeah. The average American has gained 18 pounds during the coronavirus pandemic.
Whoa.
18 pounds. That is a lot of weight.
It's okay to protect those groups. Like, you should protect your 95-year-old grandpa. But like, that doesn't mean you don't go anywhere. It means be careful around him, and he stays at home a little more. He doesn't go to crowded shopping
malls.
Which
we would be doing anyway. And if you're 95, you have lived the life you've lived, and you've earned the right to live in whatever reckless way. You want to start intravenously using heroin when you're 95? Cool. Good for you. I don't care.
My neighbor's dad, he was almost 90, and he was a musician. He said, I'm not going to stop playing music. I don't care about this. And he caught it, and he died. Yeah. And that was his choice. And he died playing music instead of sitting at home for a fucking year.
Yeah.
That's his choice.
Yeah.
That's his choice. And I honor that choice. And it's too bad that it got him. It is too bad that it got him.
Yeah. But he went out the way he wanted to. And I'm fine with that. And the problem is that we're not honoring people's choice. And they want to talk about where this choice thing ends. Where the choice thing ends for me is when people want to vaccinate children.
Yeah.
And so they're saying that I'm posing such a risk that my freedom ends when it starts affecting other people. What about vaccinating children?
Yeah. Well, when this treatment first came out, I was really excited because the RNA stuff meant that I actually read the trials and I knew how it worked. And I'm like, oh, this isn't a classic vaccine. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stop transmission. It just reduces your symptoms if you get it. Awesome. That means I don't have to get it because I don't have to. Huh. Funny how it worked out.
Right. All-cause death since the vaccine has been instituted is up, and nobody's giving me any reason that anybody should get a vaccine that's not decreasing all-cause mortality in any country. Why would anybody take this vaccine? It makes no sense to me.
It's honestly, a lot of it is just social pressure and acceptance.
Yeah, but people can rage against that. I know like 2 people that are vaccinated. Outside of that, I don't know anybody.
My 2 closest friends, one of my 2 closest friends, they got vaccinated. Their parents are very old. And that was the decision they made. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got vaccinated, they started flying and visiting, and they actually like ended their quarantine and were logical about it.
I only know one person in my life who I'll know a lot of people actually who've gotten the vaccine. But only one person has explicitly said because I'm high risk, because I have this, and I'm high risk, and I believe that the vaccine will protect me. Pretty much everyone else has said, I'm getting the vaccine because I want to live my life. Yeah. Because I want to be able to travel. I don't want to have to, continue on living my life indoors all the time.
That's called coercion. They
have anyway. Yeah. And what's kind of uplifting sort of is that a couple of those people now they're saying, well, I'm not getting a booster. I did my part. I took the vaccine.
It's not going to stop, honey. You won't be able to fly without a booster. So why'd you get the vaccine?
I know. It's such a boomer reason to get the vaccine because I wanted to travel. Have you seen that Jordan Peterson clip where he's like, I got the vaccine and I thought they were going to fucking leave me alone. It's like, why would you think that? Why on earth would you think that? You've been in the dissident sphere for like 4 years now. Yeah. Why would you possibly think the government's ever going to leave you alone and stop taking your rights?
Mr. Expert in tyrannical governments.
I know. It was so retarded. And it's like
he's still part of the foundational architecture of how these countries work, and he believes in those systems.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's a problem. It's like if people feel like being obsequious is going to allow them to live their lives, and you've already lost the battle because you have to get a booster shot every 6 months for the rest of your life. And that's the way it's going to go because you're not fully vaccinated.
I've had people, tell me that, like, well, don't you want to go to France? Don't you want to fly?
Who cares?
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I've been to France 3 times. Like,
yeah.
It's not France anymore, so I don't really want to go.
I know.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
This world traveling thing, which I can safely say all 3 of us have engaged in. Like, I used to think travel will fulfill my heart and soul and teach me who I am as a person. I don't want to go to France and see a bunch of like Africans now. It's not what it used to be. And so I think I'm going to find my heart and my soul and who I am much more by staying rooted and having children where I am. Travel is not what it used to be. And, our ancestors had no opportunity to travel and they lived more fulfilling lives than we
young, and you haven't gotten to do that. And I have to get jabbed to do it. But it's like young people think hard and long before you make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Travel to countries that allow you to just take a test. There's lots of countries that let you do that.
Definitely.
Be smart about it. Smart, clever, resourceful people never do what they don't want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true. It's hard. I find it like I feel like I'm really stuck in a hard place with the whole travel issue because I do have the boomer mentality of just wanting to vacation twice in the Mediterranean a year. And but like there's the more practical side of this that my husband is European and his family hasn't met their grandson.
Yeah.
Right. And he's almost 2 now. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking. My husband is effectively a hostage in this country. He can't return to his home country. And unfortunately, Slovenia is like, you can't pump gas there without a vaccine pass.
What?
Yep. And there's not a lot of news coverage about this. This is stuff that we've heard from like my sister-in-law and family members. Slovenia is like, it's on par with Austria right now. It's actually worse.
Insanity.
It's actually worse because you legitimately can't do anything without getting the vax. And I mean, his family are pretty, they're freedom loving people. They're gonna, like you said, smart people will find a way, right? To not do what they don't want to do. But even if we were to try, like, even if we were going to try and get there, like it's worse there than what it is here. So we feel like, when you're a young family, you've got little kids and stuff. Like I feel like as a mom, a new mom who's going to have 2 kids soon, the way that my family has been severed, and like I don't have access to grandparents. Even if they were willing to travel, they can't now. It's made the isolation that much harder. And it's made these like tender years of like toddlers and babies and stuff, which, I want to soak it in and like appreciate it and love it so much, but I'm so much in survival mode because I have basically no community around me, no extended family around me. Yeah. It's really hard. It's really hard.
Not okay. You're not to get through it. You're not supposed to be without family.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people in Canada moved to like random ass places. They just packed up and left.
Yeah.
Like packed up. Like Yolanda had a big business and stuff, and she has 8 kids, and they literally they were in Vancouver, I think too, or her mom is from there. And she just packed up and left. I'm not going to say where she went, but it's like a random, warm place. And she's just there now. She just uprooted her life. So, God, I don't know. I feel very privileged being where I am. And I hope everyone can find their best ideal situation. And if things start getting worse and worse, don't hesitate to just pack up and go.
Yeah.
Fly to the first country you don't need a vaccine passport for, or my friend paid for a private flight to America.
Yeah.
Like you don't need any vaccine passport or test.
Exactly. And I'm seeing a lot of people really engage with this normalcy bias, thinking that things are going to get better. Things are going to go back to normal. Things are never going to go back to normal. So the first whiff that you get that they are going to detain you in your state or in your country, or they're going to refuse interstate travel in America, like if you're in a blue
hold
state,
down your kid and vaccinate them like in PEI.
Yeah. You need to get out, and no matter what that means for your personal life, because things are done being normal.
Yeah. It's very
On
true.
That note,
We should probably wrap it up. You're right.
Were you going to say something, Robyn? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I know several people. I even know one of my good friends who is her third trimester, who packed up her life and she left the country. Like she straight up left the country. And there is a little bit of a loophole. I don't know if this would be useful for anyone who's in Canada, and I'm not sure what it's like in other places. But even in Canada, the Canadian government can't force you to stay. Yeah. They can deny you entry, but if you can get a plane ticket from a airline company that's in a country that has different restrictions and different regulations, that is your ticket out. And that seems to be a loophole that is staying stabilized for the time being.
Right.
So if you are in a situation where you do feel like you need to escape, that's how you do it. You don't believe, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the news right now where they're trying to defeat your will to survive before you even attempt to escape, right? They demoralize you, exactly. So they try to make you think that there is no way to travel without a vaccine, or there is no way to escape, but there are ways, and they still exist. And it doesn't look like Canada is going to be able to legislate whether or not Mexico can sell a plane ticket to someone, right?
Sure. And remember, they were talking about how you won't be able to fly within the country without a vax pass, and they still haven't instituted that. They said they were going to institute it in November.
They postponed it. Yep.
They can't do it. It's not constitutional. Canada still has a constitution, even with shit. But it's actually like governments are slow and shitty at like changing these things. And there's enough people willing to like sue them over it and sue the airlines over it that they have to be very careful. And a lot of it is lies. Like a lot of it is lies. Even the quarantine stuff. My sister has a friend who like the whole 2 years just like didn't quarantine even once. He's like, nope, not doing it. Fine me. Yeah, just like take the fine, and it would never actually be mailed to his house because it's not a legal fine. Mm-hmm. So he just avoided all of that. Yeah. Now, that's speaking for a place that isn't, total fascism like Australia now. But Canada's still holding on to some of those like human rights and stuff. And a nice thing about Canada is it's so liberal that the only conservatives are the cops, and the cops have said no. They've said no to almost everything the government tried to make them do. Like when they wanted to do the stop and frisk for the cars during lockdowns, they said no. They straight up said no. Yeah. So they rolled that law back because no one was going to be enforcing it. The cops said no to checking COVID passports. They said, get your own agents to check them because we're not doing this. Yeah. And these are like including city cops. So I think that's the main difference between Canada and Australia. The cops in Australia are like, pepper spray, woo! But in Canada, they're actually conservative dudes. So like, no, we're not policing people's bodies.
Yeah. Yikes.
A glimmer of hope. Julia, before we let you go, some people in the chat are really missing your presence on social media, and they're wondering where is the best way to find updates about what's going on with you.
I can send you a invite link to my Goose Posting Telegram group.
What can you put it in the chat? Possibly, is that possible to do right now? Or maybe you can send it to me later, and I'll post it in the pinned comment on this video.
Post it as a pinned comment. It does expire after like a week or something, so check back today or tomorrow to get into that chat.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
People watching, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a good talk, and I hope everybody else enjoyed it as well. Once again, I am Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. This is Robyn Riley. This is Brave the World. Check out where you can find us in the description below, and we will see you next week.
Hopefully. Pray for us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.